My name is Joanne Moore. I am 64 years old.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Herstory TV and the Herstory podcast. This is Gertrude Matcha here in beautiful Wellington, New Zealand, and I am graced with the presence of yet another creative woman coming to us all the way from the United States. Welcome to our tribe. Tell everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Well, first of all, it is an honor to meet you and speak with you. I do feel like I'm on your sofa in your living room. But my name is Joanne Moore. I am 64 years old, young. I feel young. I am based in the mountains in Colorado, but luckily for me, I get to travel throughout the United States and sometimes out of the country. And I do luxury weddings everywhere I go, and I bring that happily ever after to the couples. But my story started out as a normal little girl growing up in the United States. I'm one of 5 children, and I didn't realize that my family had what I call untruths until I became a teenager. And my oldest brother listening to my parents talking to him about college and what do you want to do when you leave, and what do you want to be when you grow up, and them offering to pay for his college, and he went into law enforcement, got into the police academy. But then years later, it was my turn, and I kept waiting for that conversation. I was so excited to tell them I know what I want to do. I want to go in the medical field. I want to work and help people and save lives. And that conversation never came. And I remember watching my parents sitting in the living room talking, and I announced myself and asked to speak with them about what I wanted to do when I left high school in just a few months. And my dad looked at me stunned. He got up and left the room. And my mother at that point, as I continued to say, Mom, I need some help. I don't know what to do. Remember, this is before computers and this is before the internet. So we had yellow pages. We had no Google. And my mother then told me that that's not what we do. Those are the 5 words. That's not what we do. And I was stunned. I'd never heard that from her. I mean, I was a little girl that danced and gymnastics, and I even twirled a baton. I could not understand why all of a sudden there's barriers for me. And it was with that I had to learn how to do these things on my own. I had no help whatsoever to figure out what my journey and my path for me to fulfill what my dreams were for me. It was okay to do that for my brothers, but it wasn't okay for me. I had learned that the journey from the generations before me had to be mine, that women were expected right out of high school, if we chose to graduate high school, we were to soon after get married and start a family and stay home and take care of the house, the husband, and the children. And although I wanted those things, I wanted more. And it was an incredibly uphill battle for me and my journey to disclose what the untruth was in my family.
Wow, what a journey you've been on. But it sounds to me like you managed to turn that around, created an incredible life, an incredible business, mother of 5. You know, I kind of cyber stalked you when I got the application that you would be on the show. How did that all come to being? You defied all the odds of what life had prepared you for. How was that possible?
It is a strong will that came from the gut. I can't even explain it. I knew there was more for me in my life, that although I wanted these things, I wanted more. I wanted to contribute. And it was in speaking with people and learning, I knew I needed 3 things. I needed a car, I needed a job, and I needed an education outside of high school. And even my guidance counselor at my high school sided with my parents and said, well, you know, your parents don't want that for you, so good luck. And so it was my struggle that I did find a way to buy a car. I did find a job. I started out making $1.35 at one of those big box, you know, department stores. And I found that there was a vocational school just a couple of blocks away from where I was working. I immediately interviewed with them. They had a course on respiratory therapy. I had no idea that was even something, and learned all about it, got everything I could, talked to the professors, toured the facility, signed up. 2 weeks before I graduated, I announced to my parents what I was going to do. And that was a very sad time for me, that here I was getting ready to graduate high school, and my parents were angry with me. They wouldn't go to my graduation. They were punishing me for not following what the family tradition was, that women, these are our roles, stay in your lane, don't cause trouble. And I couldn't do that. So I went on and went to school, graduated in less than a year. I was determined that no one was going to stop me. I was 19 years old when I started working in the hospital. Several years later, to get to an incredible turning point for me, several years later, I get a call from my mom that my dad is very, very sick and that he wants to come see me. And I'm at a hospital that he has no business being at. And I encouraged him to go to a different hospital. Here's the doctor. Go see this doctor. And my 2 hours later, my dad shows up at the hospital I'm working at, and he has all kinds of issues with high blood pressure. His pulse is going off the charts. It was like 240 over 140 blood pressure, and I did an EKG on him because that's my job. I was working in cardiopulmonary at this particular hospital, which is heart and lung. And I saw he's having arrhythmias. And I told him, I said, Dad, you're going to have a stroke right here. Let me get you an ambulance and get you to the hospital I told you to go to. And he was defiant, drove himself. He was intensive care, cardiac intensive care for over 2 weeks. When I finally got to see him a few weeks later, I asked him, why on earth did you wait so long to get medical help? He disclosed his family untruth that floored me. He said that since he was a little boy, he was told that all the men in his family pass away by the age of 45. He was 48 years old and thought he cheated death 3 extra years. He accepted that untruth. So what I fought so hard to do, working cardiopulmonary, heart and lung, ended up saving his life by making him get help. And maybe that was the drive and the determination that I was supposed to have, was to save my father's life. He passed 10 years later, but he had all this other time to enjoy his family and his children. And he woke up to the fact that, well, maybe it wasn't such a bad idea to let her go to school
Oh
and do
my
what she wanted to
God.
do. Yes,
What a
and then
beautiful story.
yeah, it was but it was like nothing I could explain. It was a drive like I've never had before. And
Mm.
then years later, I moved out of state into the beautiful area of Vail, Colorado, and they didn't have my job available, and I was okay with that. And so I learned how to become a wedding planner, which was my second passion, and I never
Ah.
looked back. And now that's my journey.
So tell us about your luxury weddings. What do you offer? I am such a die-hard romantic. I just love weddings. What
Oh,
does your service offer?
well, I too love weddings, and I got into it quite by accident because in small communities and small towns, you are required to help out with community events. So I started volunteering with festivals and parades and music things and art festival, all those kinds of things, and I loved it. And someone asked me to help plan their wedding because they have no idea, and they love my organizational skills, and they love my creativity. And I was so flattered that someone noticed that about me. And I said, absolutely, I'm in for a challenge. And I planned their wedding. And I remember it like it was yesterday. We had fish bowls with fish. They were kayakers, so they got married under 2 kayaks. And I'm like, I can do this. And so I remember going home and telling my husband, I said, I want to do this. I want to make a career out of this. And this
Yeah.
is, my husband's an amazing man, and he never tells me no. And he says, well, I think you need to get the education that you need to be successful. And
Yeah.
again, still no internet. So we searched and found a class that I could take, and that's how I got started. And I learned everything I needed to learn to start a business. My first year, I opened my sign, put my sign out, open for business. I booked 30 weddings that first year.
Are you serious?
It was a need. It was a need in the community I lived in. And I
Oh,
knew the community well, and everyone knew me for my abilities, and they all recommended me without advertising. 30 weddings my first year was too many, and I cried a lot. But but it was a wonderful transition, like, oh my goodness, I can do this. And I've never looked back. I am blessed with working with the most amazing couples with their love stories and their journey and their inspirations for wanting to bring their love and show it off to the world, to their family and friends. It's just a remarkable career.
so how has the current situation in the world impacted your business? COVID-19 has had a lot of entrepreneurs have to pivot and be really creative. What is the situation in the US? Are people still able to have their weddings? Let's go into that a little bit.
Well, it's different everywhere. In the US, every community, every town, every city, every state has different rules and regulations. And for me to be able to travel from one state to the other, I really have to dig deep and find out what I'm allowed and are not allowed to do. What I
Mm.
can do in Colorado, and as I said, I was just in Florida, it's completely different in the state of Florida. So, but with that, I make sure that my team and the caterers and the photographers and the florists and everyone is protected with the mask and everything. So I have the
Yes.
high regulations for them, and the guests are asked to follow the curriculum, if you will, for the day. But
Mhm.
that's not always the case. A little couple of drinks here and there, but it is coming back. And my phone is literally ringing off the hook that those that
Mhm.
postponed their wedding are now
Mhm.
wanting to rebook. And those that just got engaged during the pandemic, what a story their grandchildren are going to hear someday, are now planning their wedding. So we are colliding with weddings. So everything's getting booked up really quick. But again, we've still got but we're hopeful. We are very hopeful, even with the restrictions we still have in place.
Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah.
So, if you could have a conversation with the older you, let's just imagine that time is an illusion, your past, your present exist in the same timeline. And you could have a conversation with you at the age of 100. And you're sitting with your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, your dogs, your cats, reflecting back on your life.
Mm.
What would you say to that amazing woman who has done all of these things?
Wow. I think I would tell them we all have our own journey. Don't let the outside voices tell you different. Listen to your heart, listen to your gut. You know where you need to go. You know you can do it, and you can do it. And then I would say, don't just reach for the stars, be one. That's what I would tell them.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely beautiful. Well, it has been fantastic connecting with you. Thank you
You're,
so much for what you do for the world of love. We do need more love in this world.
we
And
do.
it's the people who facilitate to bring that joy in families that really makes a difference.
I agree. And thank you for what you do, my dear. You are a special person, and I appreciate you and your time.
Oh, thank you. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in. I told you we have some amazing women who are just movers and shakers in this world. They bring about joy, they bring love, and they're changing lives one woman at a time, one story at a time. So this is Gertrude Macha here in beautiful Wellington, New Zealand. I'll be back again tomorrow with yet another amazing guest. Have a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. Bye for now. Thank you.